Hello, everybody. It is 11:16 a.m. Central Time on the 16th of October, 2020. It's Friday here in the United States. Hope you're doing well. We are here to talk about seismic events that have taken place since my update yesterday. And if you're a new viewer, let me just quickly explain. We're using Earthquake 3D, the program. I don't get anything for recommending this, but you should use a copy of it. There's a free version and a paid version. Paid version gives you more feeds, allows you to combine feeds between different agencies. We are using the USGS and the EMSC out of Europe to give us a good idea of what has struck. Also, the earthquakes that are raised high off the globe are deep down into the Earth. So the higher they are off the planet, the deeper they are into the planet. And we have to pay attention to the deep earthquakes because they have a shallower, larger earthquake effect within days of the deep earthquakes taking place. We are about 8 or 9 days in on a 10-day earthquake watch. We have about 2 more days to go in the watch. We had a big, deep 6.0 earthquake strike right below this area here in the West Pacific. And since then, we've had deep 5s and deep 4s, but the deep 6 can have a shallow 7 effect. We could see a 7.0 earthquake come up next to the deep 6. And the areas we're watching are across the West Pacific from where the deep earthquake occurred, going over to the west, over into our open areas across Papua New Guinea. That still has not happened yet. We're waiting for that to happen. We're on, like I said, day 8 of a 10-day watch, 2 more days to go. Same time that's been going on, a spread of earthquakes went across Indonesia. I talked about that in my update yesterday. But now it's left an open area here, east of Java, next to Bali, Indonesia. We have to watch there as well for a new significant release in the next few days. Now, again, I'm leaning towards Papua New Guinea as being the spot where the 7 hits, but look, if we have 2 open silent areas right next to each other, this one should still get hit by something significant, maybe not as big as Papua New Guinea, but I want you to have a 1 magnitude larger plan just in case. Now, all the pink-colored earthquakes are from a day ago. Let's get those out of there. Here's what struck last night. So going from Indonesia up to Philippines, 4.8, 4.6, 4.5, 4.2, all yesterday. Open silent zone yesterday across the area where we have volcanic eruptions taking place in South Japan. Suminizajima erupting there. Deep earthquake down below the coast of Japan, that's raised high off the globe, and a 3.8, pretty small right now. Next to Tokyo. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Going over to the west, 4.9 earthquake popped off Afghanistan, right at the tip of the arrow. And it's a moderately deep earthquake. It's not exactly extremely deep, but it's 222 kilometers, which puts it at that deep earthquake threshold, which I think is about 200 kilometers or so on average. So a deep earthquake here, a deep earthquake here. We have some deep earthquakes that the USGS wasn't reporting here, and then deep earthquakes here. So letter D there, letter D's there, letter D there, and letter D here, all hit with deep earthquakes in the last 24 hours. Another way to look at that is everything from Afghanistan all the way over to Fiji, all the way up to Japan, everywhere below it, where this would be the center of the area, wouldn't you say? All has deep activity below it, coming up from underneath. Leverage is coming up from underneath this whole section of the planet. What is that, a quarter of the planet? And going out from this point is going to be large activity spreading over towards larger than what we currently have on the map here now, with the highest we go in the 4 range. So bigger than that 4 range, going over to the west, over into Europe, going up to the north, up into the North Pacific, and even over into the United States, and going across over into Central and South America. This is all going to have an effect in the next few days. And this is just what happened since last night. There's been 85 or more deep earthquakes this month. Something's going on down below the plates, which is leading to larger activity. Now, China and Russia, no earthquake activity at all reported. And we have activity coming out of Indonesia, and look which way the arrows go. They go up and around the bend of the plate. I can show it to you on the USGS plate boundary map a little bit better. Over here, coming out of Indonesia, going up around through China and over to Afghanistan. The thick red line here is what we watch, and we watch the middle point between our sets of quakes. So if we have a deep quake here, going back around the bend, and we have quakes here in Sumatra, Indonesia, that halfway point, That's Myanmar, India. This is eastern India, by the way, right here. Bangladesh. But we watch at the bend of the plate, and we'll watch on the Chinese side of the border. Now, what size magnitude? Well, we're dealing with deep quakes on both sides. Let's just call this a deep 5 here, a deep 4 here, and deep 4s down here. That I would put it in the mid-range 5 level, or bigger. Just strike in China very soon at the middle point, around the bend of the plate. Over to the west, Pakistan also started to move with a 4, and South Iran with a 3. We have a warning going right here where all these rings kind of come down and come together on the coast of the Mediterranean at Cyprus. And our warning is for 5.0 or greater level activity. Istanbul was hit last night just on the north side of there, 3.0. Kind of rare for that to get hit. Doesn't get hit all the time. But I'm looking here. Cyprus still has not been hit. Energy's coming in 2 ways. It's coming in from the Gulf of Aden. Let's get those earthquakes on there so you can see it. 5's coming in from the south. 4's coming in from the east. And it's all going to pool back up together here in the Mediterranean. Sicily got hit. A line of earthquakes going across Italy again. That was yesterday. And look, guys, a new 4 struck out here at the Straits of Gibraltar. Let's go back to the USGS map. Here's Europe. Energy coming across Turkey, going down across Crete, up across Italy, dead ending into North Italy, and then going across North Africa. We were here yesterday with smaller activity. It was a cluster of 2s. Now, in the middle of that cluster of 2s, and I mean directly in the middle of it, right here where the blue ring is, right in the middle of it all, a new 4.3 just struck. A bigger earthquake right in the middle of all those 2s that I showed you yesterday. They were all the rings were overlapping right here where the 4 is. Now the 4 is struck, that culmination point, if you will, where all the energy comes together at the middle, and a larger earthquake struck in the middle. Now, coast of Norway has been hit here, guys. And I don't know if you know about Norway and what the Europeans started doing, but they built are building 5 different HAARP, HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program in Alaska for the United States. You know, the antenna array. Well, the Europeans are building 5 of them, and they're not like HAARP exactly. They're working on the FM bands, frequency modulated. So like your car radio, basically the same kind of radio waves, but just a little bit higher than where your car radio would go. Your car radio might go up to 108 FM here in the United States, but they're like operating in the 200 FM range. And they banned FM for public use, like radio stations and that kind of stuff, in Norway before they started building these FM transmitters. Now, each array has like 50,000 antennas or something. I can get a picture of it if we need to see it. You know what? A picture speaks 1,000 words, doesn't it? The reason I'm mentioning that is a new earthquake just struck right next to Norway. But let's see. EISCAT 3D. Let's see if that brings it up. ISCAT 3D. Yeah, there we go. Tromsø, Norway. ISCAT operates blah, 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 blah. I just want to get the images on it. Might even find my video. Oh, there we go. Here's some images on this. There's a computer animation of what one of the arrays is supposed to look like when it's done. But each one's about as tall as a human, just a little bit taller than a person. Look, they have a graphic here for how big the antennas are and how big one of the arrays goes. Again, that's just one array that they're showing there, but they're building 5 of them, and the idea is to combine the radio waves, use different facilities. Let's see if I can get a picture of this. I don't even know if it's going to come up. ISCAT 3D array. Let's see if that brings it up. We're going to get a graphic. Well, okay, you're just going to have to imagine this. They have a graphic that they put out that shows the 5 different stations and where the rays come together from the different stations. That's, oh, here it is. Here it is. There it is. This is from them. It's some kind of thing they put out over in Asia about it. But do you see these? They have 3 of them down here. There's 2 more here. You see where they overlap? Where the rays overlap from the different arrays of antennas, that's the excited area. And they will target that area and heat it up to be like northern lights. You see how they have northern lights in the background up in the ionosphere? They can create their own northern lights with these facilities that are circular shaped. And HAARP can do the same thing. HAARP rings prove Dutch since. Here's this. I found this from the U.S. Army, where they were creating upside-down top hat-shaped rings in the atmosphere using pulses from HAARP. This is from the U.S. military. This graphic right here comes from the DTIC.mil. So this would be HAARP. This is again down on the ground, transmitting up, and it creates a ring-like shape from the square array. And this is what it looks like looking straight down on it, or at an angle, or at an extreme angle. And the center ring is lower than the outer ring, but it's like a top hat shape. And this is visible air glow. This is northern lights that they imaged with night vision. So the ring shape actually appears in the sky if they pulse it hard enough. Now guess what happens? There's a VLF emission that comes off of those high frequency and frequency modulated, FM modulated radio wave plasma rings. The plasma ring vibrates like a bass drum. It's kilometers wide. And it creates VLF, very low frequency, that then gets attached onto the magnetic field bands of the Earth by where this happens up in the upper atmosphere or ionosphere. That then goes to ground, that energy, that VLF, following the magnetic field lines of the Earth like a waveguide. And so you get VLF going down into the ground when you're generating this plasma up in the upper atmosphere, and it can go right down into the area next to where the transmitter is. Or in this case, the country. We get a new earthquake right out there. I think they're probably doing experiments there. That's why I'm telling you that now. I'm taking all the time to tell you that. Speaking of somewhat rare 3.0 earthquakes, doesn't happen all the time. Over here in the United States, let's get into the U.S. Over here in the U.S., we had our rare 3.0 earthquake, 3.3 down in Arizona, followed by a big fire breaking out. Then another 3.3 struck up in Utah, next to the pumping operations in Utah. And then look at the line of earthquakes that's broken out since yesterday across the Midwest. Guys, we got a rare earthquake over here in Illinois. Look at this. This is just, let me zoom in on it. So, right on the Mississippi River, but I mean, it is right at the Illinois-Missouri border. It's a 1.7. It's listed as Longstown, Missouri, but look where the star is. So, we're literally about, let me see how many miles we are. We are 1 mile from the Mississippi River on the Missouri side of the river, but we're at Missouri-Illinois border region. Let me just show you where I'm at. I'm west of St. Louis out here, and the earthquake is right down here. This is on the northern side of where all the hot spots appeared. And people tried to say it was farm fields. Well, it's gone now. I guess all the farmers stopped burning their fields all of a sudden. But it was going yesterday when the high wind warning was going on with the red flag warning. But today, all of a sudden, they went down to the south. All the hot spots transferred across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Florida. A lot of people contacting me about Florida all of a sudden having a whole bunch of hot spots all the way across it, even going down into the Everglades. Some people writing me messages chastising me, saying I deliberately left that info out. I didn't know. I had to talk to Tattooed last night to even find out the info. But let's just go, Tattooed, my buddy who lives down in Florida, let's go down and see what's going on down in Florida. All the way down here in the Everglades. Now, a lot of people try and tell me, oh, it must be farmers burning their rice fields. Well, maybe it is down in the Florida Everglades. You know, you can't ignore it. Can't completely deny that there's anything going on down there. Now, I'm not exactly seeing anything on shortwave. There are a few little spots, but you're not going to see them. At least not on this. Let me stop it right there. We've got 2 in central Florida, here and here, but I don't see very many at all down to the south, at least not right now. This is last night going into this morning. So there could be fires in Florida. There certainly can. There could be hot spots down in Florida. There certainly can. Let's go look at the fire detection satellite imagery from last night. And here we are. Here's the fire detections from last night. But look where they are mostly. They're all down here in these fields, which would be different than if it was out in the Everglades, let's say. If it was down here in the Everglades where they don't do any farming. But to have it just in the farm fields, to me that says that somebody is starting farm fires now. But look at this. Look, these are the hotspot detections from yesterday in orange and the current ones in red. And just to let you know, there's no other spots across pretty much the whole country that are spread out like this. This shifted from the New Madrid seismic zone where we have a new detection right now as I'm talking. Hold on. New detection of hotspots on the New Madrid right now. 1. But really, clearly, it's down across the south, all the southern states. Shifted from here to here. Now, I'm really interested in this new outbreak that's happening here at the Virginia border region. The new hotspot outbreak across Virginia. A lot of them. Look at that. This is all current. Hold on, let's go over to Virginia. There's something going on at the Virginia, West Virginia border region. Hold on, let's zoom in on the area and see if there's anything here. Clifton Forge. What is going on down in here? It looks like dead forest. Daggers Springs. Man, this is a huge set of fires. Is that what it is? Well, let's go look. We're going up to Virginia. All of a sudden on Virginia's... Oh, this is the Creighton Edge. This is the Creighton Edge, man. 100%. But let's just go see if there's anything else there. Localized sectors. This is Virginia. Let's look. We were looking at South Virginia. I don't see any fires there. It's not showing any fires. Let's look across the whole state of Virginia. This is the state of Virginia. And the hotspots, and it's a big outbreak of hotspots. It's not like a little bit. This is west of Charlottesville, right at the border with West Virginia, across this stretch right here. And we can go back and look. That's this stretch right here, all showing hotspots all of a sudden. But there's nothing. Look, guys, it just got done raining. Look at that. Well, okay, so we've got a sudden outbreak of hotspots over on the eastern edge of the North American Creighton. We got a lone earthquake swarm going on right there at the Virginia-North Carolina border region, and we are on the edge of the Creighton. No doubt about that. After a rare earthquake down in Alabama and our rare earthquake out here at Arizona. And people taking note with me and disputing me on whether or not the earthquake in Arizona is rare. I had somebody just leave a comment on my Facebook page multiple times. It's a skeptic group. There's a group of skeptics that denies every post I make. It's really weird and really annoying. But their claim now is that it's not rare for an earthquake 3.3 in Arizona. And they listed 17 other earthquakes this year that struck in Arizona. They said there's been 17 total earthquakes in Arizona. Now, 80 to 90% of those are the northwest tip of Arizona, right up at Dutchman's Draw volcano. But regardless of, where they are in the state, 17 for the whole year is rare. When we're dealing with hundreds of earthquakes everywhere else in the country, and you get 17 over the course of a year, that's less than 2 a month. That's less than 2 earthquakes a month in Arizona. That's rare. So they're trying to say it's not rare. Why are they trying to deny the rare earthquake in Arizona? Well, they're also trying to deny the fire. The fire's just an out-of-control control burn. They were doing a control burn, and it got out of control. And that's why the fire's there, next to where the not rare earthquake is. So the earthquake's not rare, and the fire's just an accident. Don't you see, Dutch? Okay, denier freaks. Hey, by the way, the new earthquake in Missouri, right here, that's rare. Hardly ever happens. Yes, there are earthquakes in Missouri. Every year, there's probably at least a couple dozen of them the whole year. 2 a month, at the most. And that's just an average. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. But I can tell you it's low. Now, why am I making a big deal about that? The rare earthquakes that are striking and then the fires that are breaking out next to the locations, we're going to include this over here, the rare earthquake over at Virginia, North Carolina border region that struck a couple months ago. And now we have a big fire outbreak next to it. Nobody can tell me that Virginia, North Carolina gets hit all the time, especially with noteworthy earthquake swarms. Hardly ever happens. So to have a fire break out there or a big hotspot there at the same time is a little bit odd. Now, going back across the rest of the plate, this all happened since my update yesterday. Kansas was hit. And Kansas, with the white-colored earthquakes here in the center, going down into Oklahoma. And the spots in Kansas that are hit are right next to where the hotspots appeared. Just a couple of them. Couple of hot spots, central Kansas, and we have new earthquake activity breaking out there. And again, 2.5 and 2.0. Oh, wait. A new earthquake just struck right next to here as I'm talking. Hold on. When did this hit? 1632 UTC? It's 1635 UTC. 3 minutes ago. Now, let me just do a quick calculation for you guys. For me to be zoomed in on a 200 square mile area like this, so I'm zooming in on 200 miles, I'm looking at a place, and an earthquake strikes there when I'm talking about it. There's 200 million square miles on the planet, and for me to be down to 200 square miles, that's a 1 in a million chance for me to be talking about a spot and have an earthquake get reported there as I'm talking about it. This could mean that somebody's at the USGS and deliberately populating earthquakes in spots where I'm talking about as I'm live, because they're watching. They called for my arrest, the USGS did. Said it was unfortunate they couldn't have me arrested for doing earthquake forecasting. We got that in writing from their customer service center when one of my viewers wrote them and asked about what they could do to stop me. And they said, it's unfortunate we can't have him arrested. Well, here's a new earthquake striking, a 1 in a million chances. I'm talking about the spot where we're looking at. For it to happen 2 days in a row? But what would you do if I told you this happens in every broadcast that I'm talking lately? I mean, for it to happen once, it's a 1 in a million chance. But for it to happen 2 days in a row, now it's 2 1 in a million chances, which a million times a million is a billion. All right. Or wait, is 10 billion. Well, all I've got to say about that is that this spread of earthquakes that's going across the plate matches the Craton edge. And the fires are matching where the Craton is. And to top it all off, a new 4.0 earthquake came rolling in between our other previous sets of 4s that struck over the past several days. Let's get those on the feed so you can see these. Let's get all the smaller earthquakes out of there. There we are. Here's our 4.0 and greater. Let's take it down to 3.9. Or 3.5. Here's 3.5 and greater, but 4 and greater is what I want to look at. A spread coming across Alaska, going up to the Air Force Base in Alaska, over to the east, over into the Northern Territories of Canada, and then here, or Yukon. And then a 4 has struck right in the middle of the Hecate Strait, right on the north side of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. And that, to me, is suspect as well. Because we've gone months without them reporting any earthquakes, and then my video going viral yesterday, talking about this spot, come on. And then all of a sudden they put a 4.0 earthquake in the middle of it? Dude. A 4, and I'd say they put a 4 in there. Like, it's not like it, I don't think it really struck. It's just too weird to have them list a 4 when they never do. Never do. And here, let me click on the info. The Europeans are reporting this 4.0, right? Right? Now, I'm showing you every 3 point whatever and greater, aren't I? And the earthquake is right off the coast of the United States, isn't it? Look, source parameters provided by Canadian National Seismic Network, the CNSN. And you can get more information at the Canadian National Seismic Network or the USGS or Geophone Potsdam. Wait, what? USGS? Hold on, let's go over to their site, go get more info on this quake. You know, because I want to know, and I'm sure people here in the United States want to know about a 4 that's just struck on the Juan de Fuca today. Well, wait. I don't see anything there. Hold on. I must have the wrong feed turned on. Let's turn on all magnitudes. What? This is for today. It should have it. This earthquake struck today. Where's the 4.0 earthquake up here? Oh, wait. The USGS is not reporting the earthquake. That's why there's no earthquake on here for today for a 4.0 up here right at the north side of the Juan de Fuca. We have to go to the Europeans and the Canadians to get the 4.0 and greater earthquakes that strike up here. Now, don't you think it matters if they report or don't report a 4? Now, hold on. There's going to be people that say to me, well, Dutch, the USGS doesn't report anything under 4.5. They say it on their website. Well, hold on. Look at that. Bravo, guys. Bravo freaking oh. Look at that. A 4.1 earthquake right over here in Canada on the edge of the Craton from a few days ago on the 14th, 2 days ago. And the USGS is reporting under 4.5 in Canada. So why would they ignore a 4 out here off the coast and report a 4 in here on land? When this 4 struck at 13:56 UTC, like 4 hours ago. Why are they deliberately not reporting the earthquake off the coast in the Juan de Fuca fracture zone? I just, come on. They don't want you to see a connection between the areas if it's a legit quake. And if it's not a legit quake and they threw it on there just to spite me, shame on them. But which do you think is more likely? Occam's razor, really, guys. Do you think they're just throwing an earthquake on there to get at me? Or do you think it's a legit quake that the USGS isn't reporting? Either one's troubling. Which way do you want to go on this? Both are troubling aspects. One, they're doing it to spite me. The other, the USGS is ignoring significant earthquakes right along the coast that matter. And they are reporting under 4.5 on the rest of the planet. And they're deliberately ignoring. Now, here's the deal. If they deliberately ignore one earthquake like this a day, and there's 365 days in the year, which they are deliberately ignoring at least one 4.0 greater earthquake a day around the world, when it's presented to them and shown to them and they detect it, that's 365 missing 4.0 or greater earthquakes per year. And sometimes they do this multiple times per day. Let's say they do it twice a day. All of a sudden, we're up to 700 missing 4.0 or greater earthquakes per year. And I am telling you, I'm confirming to you, I'll debate anybody on this, that they're doing this once a day, at least, with one earthquake. Oh, hold on. Of course. Begin the messages, right? Sorry, you got to turn off the phone. This is crazy. What a joke. Okay. So the past couple days, I've had my phone inside as I started doing an update, and then people start calling and messaging. It sits there quiet all day, and as soon as I start talking, all of a sudden it starts dinging, ringing, and it's people that should know better, or it's people that are deliberately doing it on purpose. Trying to get attention. Okay, so anyway, that's just lame. All right, so a 4 has struck in here out off the west coast, and whether it's real or whether it's fake, either way, it's troubling because one aspect, the USGS is ignoring earthquakes on our coast and the Juan de Fuca fracture zone at a time of a slow slip, or the other is they're deliberately throwing it on there in the middle of the silent zone that I talked about yesterday as a way of just being jerks. Okay, now let's go down. I am a little paranoid on that, I guess. I'm gonna sip my coffee. Like that's gonna help any paranoia about the USGS. But let's go ahead and hit apply and look at the last 24 hours worth of earthquakes. Okay, so our 4 up here at the north side of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. Notice USGS doesn't have any earthquake activity since last night reported across Washington and Oregon at all. Radio silence across the whole state. It's 2-state region. Yeah, I don't know about all that. Let's go over and take a look at the tremors and see what the tremors show. So tremors are different than earthquakes, but they do vibrate and have a magnitude assigned to them. And here's our tremors as of yesterday, 440. We went back up in the number of tremors. Let me go back a day and show you what happened the day before. See 295 across the whole state of Washington? Go forward to yesterday, the 15th, and we went from Washington to Vancouver Island. So out in the ocean out here, there's energy that's coming in from, well, to the west, where these arrows of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone point into Vancouver Island. Now somebody, I think, sent a report that there were hotspots up in Vancouver Island. I didn't see any, but then again, I didn't look. So, you got to look to see. Nobody reported any to me, let me put it that way. Let's just go up and take a look and see if we have anything showing up now. Hotspots in Vancouver Island. If that happened and people just dismiss that, I'll just have to smack them around a little bit for dismissing something so obvious. Well, I don't see anything. There are hotspots on the Olympic Peninsula, though. Look at that. Right here on the Olympic Peninsula. Yeah, definitely flickering on and off in the Olympic Peninsula, guys. Okay, so people reporting hotspots, but I can't show anything to you. I was in a video, so I don't know if it's current video or if it's just old footage of whatever the person's showing. But tremors now taking place across the area, which you cannot ignore anymore. If you have been ignoring, you should not ignore anymore. Because we just flared back up again and we've moved or shifted to the north side. So another way to look at this, we were moving across the whole state of Washington. It spread a little bit down towards Oregon, but mainly centered in Washington. Then we saw a little pocket appear down here in southwest Oregon. Now a big pocket has appeared up here on the north side, up at Vancouver Island. And a 4.0 earthquake up here at the Queen Charlotte Sound. So 4 out here in the ocean, swarming with tremors here at Vancouver Island, and now, again, all the way across Washington for another day. This has been going on for over a week. The highest we went was up into the several hundred range. I think the highest we went was 800 or so. Enough that it's numbering in the thousands and thousands at this point over the week. So here we are, for instance, 6 days ago on the 10th. You see, we're down in Southwest Oregon and Northwest California, but mainly centered around Washington. Now bring it forward to today, or last night, and it's still shifting. So think of these like points where the plate is vibrating or shifting and moving. While there are magnitudes assigned, they're not really breaks in the plate. They're not really earthquakes. But wait, north side has 4.0 range activity come rolling in. Over the past couple days, I showed you the 4s already. No earthquakes in Washington and Oregon to report on. Meanwhile, over to the east, on the edge of the Craton, Idaho, Wyoming, going down through Utah, down through Colorado even a couple days ago, down through Texas, back over to Oklahoma, back to the New Madrid seismic zone, now up in Missouri, and then going up the East Coast. California, well, we have that warning still going in Northern California, up here at Eureka and Bay Area. Over here in between our two sets of quakes between California and Nevada's border and the Owens Valley down here to the south. That's 4 different earthquakes we're looking for that should be above upper 4. So upper 4 to 5.0 range is what we're looking at for the 4 locations. Now there's clusters of earthquakes now that have replaced the individual earthquakes we were talking about yesterday. For instance, here in between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake, there was a ring of earthquakes yesterday. You can see it in my update last night. Now, that's given way to a single swarm or a small breakout inside the center of the oval shape itself. The oval shape that was surrounded with earthquakes now has an earthquake swarm in the center of it. And I told you yesterday, this giant oval gets earthquakes around the outside edge and in the middle. And fires break out there too. Look, there's the earthquake swarm location. There's the giant oval shape I showed you. Yesterday we were all the way around it. Today we're in the middle. I think it's a caldera. That's what I think it is. Just like this one down to the south. Here, where this little cluster of earthquakes is. Now, going up to the border, you're going to notice there's 2 earthquakes at the border, which is a change from where we were. The border region's now getting hit, which is the middle point that I warned for a new earthquake to break out. A big one. Somewhere in the upper 4 to low 5 range, right here in the middle at the border between our 2 sets of quakes. And look what just started to happen here. So far I'm 3 magnitudes off. Okay, I don't think these are the earthquakes we're looking for magnitude-wise, but come on, it's right on the border. And I'm not joking. Let me zoom in on the USGS star on this. The dotted line is the border. And our warned area is the border. Now, there's a volcano there to top it all off, Mono Lake. So here's the supervolcano, confirmed supervolcano, which is Long Valley Caldera. And then across the border right to here is where the earthquake swarm is on the east side of Mono Lake. Then there's a line of quakes coming off Monte Cristo and heading back towards Mono Lake and Long Valley. Here, let's show it to you this way. There. It's going back this way, and the middle point's under stress. Let's hope I'm wrong on the magnitudes and that it's just a little swarm that breaks out there. Same with Owens Valley. We have nothing in Owens Valley. That's this open area between our sets of quakes to the north and Ridgecrest down here to the south. And that's our 4 warned locations. One more time. Eureka. Right next to Eureka, warned for an upper 4 to low 5 for the next several days still. Here, Bay Area, same thing. Napa Valley to the Bay Area. Same thing. Upper 4 to low 5. 2 earthquakes up to the north. Warned for. And then over to the east, 2 earthquakes warned central and south. One of which I just told you about right here at the border region we're looking for. Again, upper 4 to low 5. So far, like I said, I'm 3.5 magnitudes off. Spot on in the location. And then the 4th location is right here in this open valley, which is the Owens Valley. As we go along the coast, yesterday the creeping section was moving southeast of Monterey Bay. Now today, just hush-hush. And this stack of earthquakes up here, we're now going into the 2 range. Yesterday we were at 0s and 1s. We're actually going up in magnitudes. We're going up in power here at the volcano. That's Clear Lake Volcano and the geothermal fields at Geyserville, California. Open section of the San Andreas here is the creeping section of the San Andreas. Nothing. We went from an outbreak to nothing. Meanwhile, the magnitudes over at Ridgecrest started to go back up to 2.0 range. You were at zeros. You were at zeros, now you're at twos. But yesterday, you had twos coming down from the creeping section. Jumped over. Now here you are. You're back to twos. Same amount of energy equalizing out across the whole plate, across the edge of the plate, going from up north, here along the coast where we're shifting, by the way. Washington, Oregon, and Vancouver Island all shifting. And then a line of quakes came down yesterday to here, jumped over, and went down to Ridgecrest and flared it back up here. Same time that energy came down from the north along the coast, other energy came down across the California-Nevada border and went over to the east and flared things back up over to the east, hence our new outbreaks over to the east. Missouri, Kansas, Texas, Utah. Oh, and Arizona, of course, with its big fire. An out-of-control control burn. Hey, they're going to be doing control burns at high winds and super dry. Is that what the official explanation? Is that your final answer? Is it? Because, again, if that's your final answer, you're out of the competition. Let's go over and take a look at Arizona. Here we are. 80 miles away. Somebody else weighing in trying to deny it said 80 miles. That's too far to be related. I go, oh, really? Do you have previous examples to give me what too far and too short is? There's our hotspot from last night. Let's go and there's the smoke from last night. And the volcanic field in question right here. East side of it, steaming in 2015. Earthquake striking between the volcanic field and the fire. Like right here, southwest of the volcanic field. So while the volcanic field's up here, the earthquake's even closer to the fire than the volcanic field itself. It's got to be related. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. You can't convince me with control burn, and fire by chance, and the earthquakes aren't rare, even though they only get, how many have they had this year? 17 total for the whole state? That's less than 2 a month. Oh, that's not rare. Yeah, it is. We're dealing with hundreds everywhere else and 2 there. Come on. So here we are. Let's get back to the quakes. Ridgecrest started to go up in the number, slightly up in the number, but mainly the power behind the earthquakes going up into the 2 range from zeros. Technically, that's a 100-fold increase in power to go from zeros to 2s. But I think it's going to take a huge step up in the next week, not even, in the next several days, as we're getting down to the end of this warning period, guys. I mean, we only got like 3 days left or something to watch for Northern California and Central California. It's not even that long. So we're on the edge of it, and the plate is still shifting up here. The slow slip across Washington, Oregon, and Vancouver Island is playing in to the translation of power over to the east and on the edge of the craton. So the longer this thing shifts, the more I look for a bigger earthquake. And this is proof. If this is a legit quake, a 4, let's say it's legit, they didn't just throw it on there to be jerks, it's in the middle of the open silent zone on the north side of the Juan de Fuca. Exactly. It's again, a perfect match on the north side of the Juan de Fuca. Well, I'll say that that's a sign that the plate is shifting then. Up here. So when all this moves, up here on the north side, down here on the south side, we see compensation. You can't just move a 3-state region and not see compensation on the other sides, on either side or all sides, which takes us into the craton diagram again. Okay. Now finally, Southern California. Let's get down here and take a look. This is the last 24 hours. And we have a diagonal line of quakes going from right here down to the east-southeast, down to here. And do you notice anything about the earthquakes on the north side and on the south side? Do you notice anything about these 3 sets of quakes? If you can see it on the screen, if you can, I'll tell you. North side, 1.4. Extreme southeast side, 1.4 and 1.4. They're like bookends. So we have to go down in between and see what lies in between these 1.4s. Let's go up to the north here. See where it says Fraser Park? Let's turn on the USGS plate boundary map and tectonic plates faults. The star, where the star is. So 1.4 up here, and a set of 1.4s down here. Wait a second. That's connecting between this thick red line. But the earthquakes don't follow that thick red line. They follow it for a minute, And when they get to Rancho Cucamonga and Riverside, they branch off and go down on the west side of Salton Sea. See that? Instead of going around the east side, following the thick red line, they're taking a path of least resistance from the star up here and coming down and going straight across and meeting up with the other 1.4s down here. So bookend 1.4s down on the southeast side. Bookend 1.4s up on the northwest side. What's in between? The San Jacinto Fault and San Andreas. Now I see the biggest of the bunch here. Hold on. I see the biggest of the bunch here is a 2.1. And it's directly along the San Andreas. Let's get the coordinates on this. Pear Blossom, California. And I think people who live there will know about what's right next to this. Let's zoom in and show it to you. Here we are. So does anybody remember what happened here just a couple weeks ago? Massive fires broke out around this area, right here along the San Andreas. And I mean, they were big, huge fires. And people tried to tell me that the fires on the fault zones were just chance or coincidence. But then earthquakes started to strike along the fault as the fires were breaking out. They tried to say that was chance and coincidence. Then the hotspots were appearing, and they tried to say those were just accidents. They tried to say the hotspots didn't exist. Well, here we are now, and new earthquake struck, and you can see the San Andreas here. I mean, again, it's out here again, right visible to the human eye in the mountains. But look what's there. Hotspots, 458 Kelvin from September 10th. I'm sorry, September 10th. September 10th, 6 days ago. Again, this is where the fires were 6 days ago. Man, as we go down to the east by southeast, this line of quakes is centered right in the middle where we're at a place called Anza Gap, which I talked about in my update yesterday. And this is a spot where professionals told us this line of faults here, going around the San Andreas, is slow slipping. Slow slipping. Wait a second, because I've already used that term elsewhere in this update, talking about the tremors up in the northwest, all the little red dots up here in Vancouver and Washington and Oregon and Northern California. Slow slipping up here, according to professionals, along land. Well, it's slow slipping down here, according to professionals, as of 5 years ago. And that all these little earthquakes here are basically like the little red dots that we're looking up in the northwest. They're like these. But they're earthquakes as opposed to tremors. So there's actual fracturing going on across the actual faults down here. So while there's a bunch of little tremors here, and there's a bunch of little tremors up here in Washington and Oregon and Vancouver, what about in between the two? Well, that's the earthquakes I just showed you. They're seeking out the weak points along the way, the volcanoes. And notice the stacks. Stack of earthquakes here at Geysers, Clear Lake volcano. Stack of earthquakes here at what I think is a supervolcano between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. Then we go down to another stack of earthquakes at the confirmed supervolcano, Long Valley. We jump across the border, right at the border, at Mono Lake Volcanic Field. And then we go over into Nevada, and we're at the Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Buttes. Going down to the south, we're at Ridgecrest, which is nothing but volcanoes across. Well, I didn't even show it to you. Hold on, let me show it to you. Here, a line of quakes going right down through here, down to Ridgecrest. And these are all volcanoes here. Volcano Peak, lava flows, spatter cones, cinder cones, rising obsidian domes, and a geothermal pumping operation, where humans have drilled in to get steam here at Devil's Kitchen Geothermal Pumping Operation, as they call it. And that's literally the name of it, Devil's Kitchen, but it's on the side of Coso Volcanic Field, which itself is on the side of all these eruptive points. That's where all the earthquakes are. We go down to the south, and we're right next to where a fire location was. And then we go down to where we're slow slipping, and this line of quake. Oh, look, another earthquake just struck at this spot that I'm talking about as I'm talking. When did it hit? Hold on. It struck at 16:55 UTC, within 5 minutes ago. See, this is why I think somebody at the USGS is deliberately messing with me. I already told you the math on this, and you're welcome to check me on this. That if we're down to a 200 square mile area, like what we're looking at right here on the screen, 200 square miles, and the Earth is 200 million square miles, and I'm down to 200, that's a 1 in a million chance to have an earthquake strike at a spot where I'm talking about as I'm talking about it? Let me put it in another perspective. What if I just won 3 state lotteries while I was talking to you? As I'm talking to you here, I've got 3 lotto tickets from different states across the United States. I've got 50 states, and I go and I buy 1 lotto ticket per state. And I'm sitting here, and in 1 hour time period, I'm like, hey, look, I just won the Wisconsin lottery. Hey, look, I just won the California lottery. Hey, look, I just won the Missouri lottery. And I won all 3 state lotteries, full jackpot, 1 in a million chance. Wouldn't you think I was weird or something? Or would you think that it was rigged and think that they were rigging they just removed the earthquake? They just removed it. No, they just populated another earthquake to get that one out of there. And now we're down at the southeast tip of the valley at Arvin, California, 6.6 kilometer depth, right next to the oil pumping operations, which I'm not even going to show you. Screw it. So I start to feel like that they're populating earthquakes when I'm talking about a location, and that to me, again, we're a 1 in a million chance for it to happen randomly on its own. And they called for my arrest and are so super butthurt about everything I say. And, yeah. Let's just go ahead and get out of the United States. How about that? So we're going to watch for the next several days still. Let's just watch till the end of the weekend. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By Monday, we will cancel the warning for the West Coast if the earthquakes don't hit. And, or if the slow slip picks back up. One more time, the slow slip with all the little red dots up here. The tremor map in the Pacific Northwest. If this thing picks up or carries on, like in the 400, 500, 600 range, now if it dies out, that's when I really start to look for a release. But as it's going, it could keep interfering until it stops. But I'm watching it close. We'll wait and see if these numbers go up or down based upon how the plate shifts. And then we watch on the edge of the craton. Now to top it all off, on the New Madrid seismic zone and the other locations, we've got the hot spots, which I'm also watching separately because I don't know what to think about. While everybody else is trying to tell me what to think about it, like, oh, those are just fires burning. Those are just farmers. It doesn't mean anything on the New Madrid. I go, how do you know? Why can't I just watch for 2 weeks and tell my viewers to watch with me? And that's what we're doing. We're watching for a couple of weeks because we don't have previous examples to go on this, while everybody else tries to pretend like they know what it is. So I don't know what it is. That's why I don't know what magnitude to issue a warning for, or even to issue a magnitude warning at all for the area. But an earthquake swarm that struck there is pretty significant, considering we don't get earthquake swarms in the New Madrid seismic zone very often. Maybe a few times a year. And to have it break out right next to where the hotspots were, that's even more suspect. Now we're going to go over to shortwave infrared and look across the area. See what's going on. Oh yeah, we got some. We got them. We got at least a couple. One in Missouri, one in Arkansas. Flaring off at the same time on both sides of the border. And they're tiny. Let me go in and get a better view on this. So we're looking, this is southwest Missouri. Just starting right now. Several of them. Only spot in Missouri really that's happening at, which is even more suspect. So the hot spots up there, again, have to be watched. We have to wait and see what happens. Never make a pronouncement on something if you don't know what it is. Like, so you say, I don't know what it is. We're going to wait and see what happens. But for people to come out and beat their chests, like, oh, it's Farmers Field, happen every year. Oh, no, it doesn't. Doesn't happen every year, that's for sure. Okay, anything else? Let's go turn back on our 7-day feed. This is going to show us everything 0.0 and greater for the last 7 days. And internationally speaking, we're watching for large release to take place in the West Pacific based upon our deep earthquakes. We've got all these deep earthquakes that keep hammering off, and that's going to have a shallower, larger earthquake effect between the sets of quakes. United States, it's kind of a different thing going on. We've got the plate being pushed in a slow slip, and the slow slip can result in large earthquake activity around the area that's slow slipping. And if you're attached to the area that's slow slipping, you have to watch too. Now, look at this. In the last 72 hours across the United States, it's pretty significant. Let's look at the 3.0 and greater. We have a 4 up here at the head of all this, all these 4s coming in out of Alaska at the northwest edge of the craton. And then it takes a step down to 3s as we go down across the edge of the plate all the way to the pumping operations in Texas. The volcano or next to it in Arizona. The oil pumping operations up here in Utah, which I showed you already. Come on, it's the deformed edge of the craton going out to the accretionary plane. Accretionary belt. And then the 4 back up behind it where the energy is coming in. Now that means we have to watch across the craton. And that's why we're watching, like for instance, we start getting rare earthquakes on the New Madrid seismic zone as rare hotspots break out across the area. And I see 3 earthquakes spread across Missouri when we hardly ever get any activity in Missouri. And it points back to here that started to flare out at the oil pumping operations in Kansas and Oklahoma. And I didn't even show them. Do I need to show them? I showed this one, the oil pumping operations, last night down in Alabama. But I shouldn't need to show you Oklahoma. Come on, everybody knows about Oklahoma, Kansas. If you don't, go look it up. Just pull the coordinates and go look them up yourself. Central America, South America. We have a huge open silent zone across Peru, going across Ecuador, up into Colombia, Panama, and basically stopping at Costa Rica. But the predominance of the activity across Mexico and Guatemala. And that actually, we have to go back over to the USGS plate boundary map to understand what's going on here down south. A line of quakes across Mexico and Guatemala. Once we get to Guatemala, it branches over and goes over to the east, following the plate boundary. Look at that. And the stepping stone path of earthquakes that did that over the past few days. Let me turn down the rings. There. So a line of earthquakes from Mexico down to Guatemala goes over to the east and carries on over to the east, to the eastern edge of the craton. Or eastern edge of the Caribbean craton, the plate. One quake creeps out down to the south. So again, a line of quakes comes down, goes over, and then over to the eastern side of the Caribbean. Whereas one quake comes down just a little bit further to the south. And I've warned here at El Salvador, where all 3 sets of rings overlap for something in the upper 5 to low 6 range to strike by the end of this weekend. We have 2 more days to go in that. Additionally, we've warned over here next to Cuba and Jamaica, or right in between all 3 countries actually, going over to Haiti, but more on this side, right where the arrow tip is, in the middle of the silent zone. Warned there as well. We finally saw a new earthquake break out in between both of our X's, which is what I issued the warning for. I said watch between the X's and the middle point. And that was like 7 days ago we talked about that. So here we are on day 7, and finally a 5 creeps out over to the east. And the 5 is the combined total of everything that came across, by the way. So take all the 4s and the 3s, add them together, equals a 5. South America, we spread across the coast of Chile. And we went down to the South Sandwich Islands with yesterday's 4.9. But another 4.9 struck. And a 4.7. But 4.9, 4.9, 4.9. Well, we go up here and look what we got. 4.9. Well, that's interesting because we got a 4.9 that struck out here. Where is it? Well, 5.9 and a 4.9. And we go back over to here, and we have a 4.8 to 4.9. Well, that's a lot of 4.9-inch. Sure is a lot of 4.9ing going on. And it's a little bit too much 4.9ing. You know, 0.9 this, 0.9 that. They're really like 5s. So take this 5 and take it down to a 4.9. You know, we can't have that many 5s this week, guys. We're going to need to reduce some of these earthquakes to 4.9s. You know what I mean? You know, if we have that many 5s per week, people might start to raise question. If they see a 5 here, and a 5 here, and a 5 here, and a 5 here, and a 5 there, and a 5 there, and a 5 there, and a 5 here, and a 5 here, and a 5 here, instead of 4.9s, they're going to start to ask some questions. So we better keep them in the under 5.0 range, just so people don't get too alarmed. You know what I mean? And hey, I hear we're going to have an inch of rain. That's too much. So maybe the weatherman should get out there and dump the rain gauge a little. Make it a ½ inch. You know, when nobody's looking, go out there, tip, 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 drop out some drops. See, we only had a ½ inch of rain. Nothing to worry about. That'll solve the problem. What's out of sight is out of mind. Don't ask any questions either. And certainly don't call them out. That's not acceptable. You're not allowed to call out the agencies, Dutch Sense. Brr, brr, brr. And on that note, let me tell you to have an earthquake plan, be prepared, keep watch, and most importantly, do not be scared. You need to be prepared. Being prepared is taking the edge off of fear and replacing it with vigilance. An earthquake's going to be an intimidating thing, I think, to go through. I've never felt one, knock on wood. But I would imagine that it's pretty significant and that it's a little alarming when it happens. But that you could remove some of the fear and replace that with vigilance and have a plan and be prepared, have an emergency kit set by the door, and have a place to go that you've preset or pre-designated to go outside if you need to. Whether it's sheltering in place underneath a table or a desk, or whether it's going outside. Those are your options, right? And if you're going outside, you might not be coming back in for a minute, so you need to have an emergency kit that has the basic stuff to get you through the seasons wherever you are, and food and water for a couple days, sanitation, especially sanitation now, and then medicines and those kind of things you might require. Communication's a thing that we all have to do, so you would need a form of communication somehow. I'm just giving you ideas. You guys will come up with better ideas than what I'm saying. All right, I'm going to save this as a video, and we're going to upload this over on YouTube again, and we are going to premiere it again over on YouTube. And you guys can watch it back, share it. I would really appreciate it. I'm serious. Take the time to share this. Letting people know what's coming their way. I mean, people in California will appreciate it when these earthquakes hit, and they're caught off guard. A lot of people will be caught off guard. There'll be a lot of people who are like, there's the earthquake we were looking for. They know to look for it. They'll appreciate it. And if you need anybody to blame, let's say the earthquake doesn't hit. You blame me, okay? You got a fall guy for it. You can come back and be like, oh, Dutch Sint, what a bad guy. And then you can remind him how I warned for the biggest earthquake in California in the last 20 years and how it hit the next day. Or 2 days later. 48 hours later. I warned for a 7.0 to strike in Central California, and 2 days later, Ridgecrest got a 7.0 earthquake. Biggest earthquake in 20 years. I warned for the biggest earthquake in Italy in 40 years. 1 day before. So a big, deep earthquake came in, 5.8 deep earthquake came in out in the ocean off the coast of Italy. And I issued a warning for the biggest earthquake in Italy, going up to 7.0 range. And the next day, 24 hours later, a 6.8 hit. The biggest earthquake in 40 years in Italy. Knocked down whole towns. And my warning went out the day before. People in Italy got the warning, and they shared it to the local mayor of the town at the center where I issued the warning. And they thanked me on BBC, on the news. They're interviewing people live in Italy. And the person on the news, Janet, God bless her, she gave me a shout out on BBC News twice in 2 separate interviews. Dutch Sint issued the warning for this, and we went to our local mayor and got the warning to her the day before the earthquake hit. And that's in the BBC broadcast. So I do issue warnings for large earthquakes, and they do hit, and we do miss, but I'd say my hit-to-miss ratio on large earthquakes is very good on the side of getting the hit right. And we're waiting to see till the end of this weekend, basically into Monday, whether or not California moves. But either way, I will be back on. If California doesn't get hit, I'm going to come back on and whip myself, beat myself up, publicly getting it wrong, like every weather person and every meteorologist should do when they get it wrong every day of the week, every day of the year, on all the hurricanes and all the big storms. They can never forecast right, and they never come back and apologize. Well, you can count on me coming back and apologizing if I get it wrong. And you can count on me coming back and gloating if I get it right, as the trolls say. So it's not good for me to come back on and brag about getting it right, guys? But it's okay to bash me if I get it wrong, right, guys? How does that work? Anyway, I'll be back. Peace out.